Hi, gang. Welcome to our study through the book of Exodus, and we'll take it on chapter 26 today. And the Bible at 1 Corinthians 6:17 tells us that our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Now, that has whole new meaning when you begin to look at the design of the tabernacle. When you consider all of the elements of the tabernacle and the single way into the tabernacle, and as you pass by on your way to the Holy of Holies, you would come to the brazen altar where your sacrifices would be offered. You would come to the bronze laver where you would perform this washing, and then you enter into the holy place and see the showbread and the light, the lamp, the menorah, and then the altar of incense before the Holy of Holies, the curtain there separating that Holy of Holies from everything else. And if you were to look in that curtain, you would see the Ark of the Covenant with a mercy seat on it. And all of these elements, point towards Jesus Christ, and you see it in so so many ways. And so when you consider that the scriptures tell us that our body is this temple, is this tabernacle for the Holy Spirit, and that gives whole new meaning to the direction, the preparation, and everything that goes into the building of this tabernacle. Should we look at that and say, is that what we should do? So you consider all of the intricacy, the preparation, the detail that goes into the tabernacle, and then consider as an alternative, as a contrast, how much detail and intricacy and preparation you put into your own body, your own person, in preparing yourself to minister to the Lord, to worship the Lord, to hear from the Lord, even preparation of our spirit to come before Him in prayer. And we are often so just quick, so flippant, and just oftentimes only when we need something sort of thought process. So that's an interesting thought, and it really has its place within the study of the tabernacle. If we are the tabernacle of God, how much more should we put into our preparation, our the details and the finite details, and the reverence with which they show in here in approaching God. How much more should we have and should we consider as we think of ourselves being that temple or the tabernacle? Let's go to chapter 26, verse 1. Make the tabernacle with curtains of finely twisted linen and blue and purple scarlet yarn, with cherubim woven into them by a skilled worker. Verse 2, all the curtains are to be of the same size, 28 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. Join 5 of the curtains together and do the same with the other 5. Make loops of blue material along the edge of the curtain, edge of the end of the curtain in one set, and do the same with the end of the curtain in the other set. Make 50 loops on one curtain, 50 loops on the end curtain of the other set, and the loops opposite each other. Then make 50 gold clasps and use them to fasten the curtains together so that the tabernacle is one unit. And so you can imagine, you can see in this is from Logos software, a depiction of the tabernacle. And you can see several of these different versions of these, and how it's envisioned and how people would envision this coming together. And you can see these curtains and the 3 layers of curtains at the tabernacle, at the tabernacle itself, and how they would look. So you begin to imagine as you put this all together, what this thing must weigh. You're making these curtains. Imagine how long it took for these woven curtains to be made. and how much material it took. And all this material had to have been in their hands, stuff that they had brought out of Egypt. And isn't it amazing that all of this that they brought out of Egypt, they had no idea they were going to build this tabernacle, but they had these materials with them that God had provided to them, and they didn't even know, in some cases, maybe why they had all this yarn or materials and to make these fabrics. A tremendous amount of work to weave these fabrics in the middle of a desert. And so they were putting these fabrics together and creating these curtains. Imagine the weight of that much material, of that many curtains, what that must weigh. And consider every time they turn around, they break this tabernacle down and they would carry it to the next place and set it all back up. And so somebody's job was to disassemble and carry these curtains or help transport them to the next place. And so as you go through this, you see these brass bases you see the silver bases for the support structure. You see all of these curtains in a 75-pound menorah, and you see all of these things, and you think, man, the weight and the some of the size and shape of these things, and trying to transport them logistically, it had its challenges, and God wasn't surprised by any of that, and he had it all figured out. And it's pretty amazing to consider. And so when we look at these curtains, we just consider how much work this would be. Even if you were just making them today, it would be a tremendous amount of work, and handling that much fabric and the weight of it and so forth would be a challenge. Verse 7, make curtains of goat hair for the tent over the tabernacle. That takes a lot of goats. I mean, this is goat hair that would be woven into strands, and then the strands would be, woven together to make fabrics or yarns or different things. And it is just hard for us to imagine that all this was done, in fairly quick fashion with these folks, that they got very good at this, and that God had people that were gifted in these particular things, and he provided those gifts for them so that they were prepared to do this. And so it's pretty amazing. We see the same thing today. God gifts his people to do those things that he calls them to do, and he provides those gifts. And we see that today, and it's been going that way for a long time. Verse 7, make curtains of goat hair for the tent over the tabernacle, 11 altogether. All 11 curtains are to be the same size, 30 cubits long. A cubit is about 18 inches, they think. So it's 30 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. Join 5 of the curtains together into one set, and the other 6 into another set. Fold the curtain double at the front of the tent. Make 50 loops along the edge of the end curtain in one set, and also along the edge of the end curtain in the other set. Then make 50 bronze clasps, put them in the loops, and fasten the tent together as a unit. As for the additional length of the curtains, the half curtain that is left over is to hang down at the rear of the tabernacle. The tent curtains will be a cubit longer on both sides. What is left will hang over the sides of the tabernacle as to cover it, and make for the tent a covering of ram's skins dyed red. Over that, a covering of the other durable leather, which has other variations, which we covered in the study on chapter 25, that there are different things in different translations have that translated a different way. So you can look that up in the study on chapter 25, verse 15. Make upright frames of acacia wood for the tabernacle. Each frame is to be 10 cubits long. So 10 cubits be like 15 feet, right? And a cubit and a half wide, with two projections set parallel to each other. Make all of the frames of the tabernacle this way. Make 20 frames in the south side of the tabernacle. Make 40 silver bases to go under them, and 2 bases for each frame, 1 under each projection. For the other side, the north side of the tabernacle, make 20 frames and 40 silver bases, 2 under each frame. Make 6 frames for the far end, that is the west end of the tabernacle, and make 2 frames for the corners on the far end. At these 2 corners, they must be double for the bottom all the way to the top and fitted with a single ring. Both shall be like that. Verse 25, so there will be 8 frames, 16 silver bases, 2 under each frame. And so these boards, you call them boards of acacia boards, would be 27 inches wide, 15 feet long. And at the bottom, there's 2 projections parallel. So, you don't know necessarily from what we see if this is parallel facing down or perpendicular, but somehow they fit into those silver bases to hold these upright and interlock together across board to board to board, and created this structure that which the curtains would go over the top. And so verse 26, though we sort of see those boards that would support that, we have curtains. Verse 26, then also make crossbars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames on one side of the tabernacle, 5 for those on the other side, and 5 for the frames on the west at the far end of the tabernacle. The center crossbar is to extend from end to end at the middle of the frame. So it's almost like a center truss from front to back, and then on the sides you would have these other crossbars that would form sort of like a truss assembly to hold this tent up. And as these curtains were thrown over the top, that these crossbars would form like a peak and sort of a roof support system. And so the center bar would go from end to end at the middle of the frames. Overlay the frames with gold. So this would be gold, like gold trusses. How'd you like to have gold trusses in your house? Gold, overlaid gold with gold on your crossbars, so that if you looked up the temple, you would see these bars and this center post, and all of it would be covered with gold. Holding up the curtains, you would see the underside of the curtains. And with the light within there, you would see these acacia boards covered with gold, sitting in silver blocks as a base. And so within this tabernacle, from the center, you see from the Holy of Holies, you see the gold, and you see everything is we'll say more expensive because that's the way we look at it, but it's more rare and precious from the center. And as you go farther out, you begin to see the brass on the support of the outer curtains. You see it in the outer courtyard curtains, and you begin to see brass the farther you go out. So from the inside, you see gold, and then you see silver, and then you see brass as you radiate sort of out from the holiest place. And so, and then from the outside of the temple, there wouldn't be much to see. You would see these darker curtains over the top. Some of the color you wouldn't even see from the outside. In fact, it doesn't even show. And there was the curtains of the courtyard would have cherubim and things woven in them, but it's pretty fascinating. It's pretty fascinating that most of that is hidden from the outside, that you would not even see a lot of the decor and the things that are very special about the temple until you entered in, which when you think about that, Those are messages that we hear in the scriptures, all the way through the scriptures, that it's not the looks, it's what's on the inside, right? And so it's kind of a underlying message there. So I think we're at verse 30. Set up the tabernacle according to the plan shown you on the mountain. So we've seen this already once, and we'll see it several times. The specific warning to make sure that you set this up, that you furnish this, that you make all of this just like the Lord asked you to make it, that it's shown to you. Remember, this is right now, as we read this, it says Moses is on the mountain. God is giving him these directions. And so this is Moses' recordings of God's directions on what to make and how to make it. And of course, later we'll see them actually make it, and we'll see them institute the worship and all of the things that they're called to do through this conversation between God and Moses. Verse 31, make a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, finely twisted linen and cherubim woven into it with skilled worker. Hang it with gold hooks on the four posts of acacia wood overlaid with gold, and standing on four silver bases. Hang the curtain from the clasp. Place the Ark of the Covenant of the Law behind the curtain. The curtain will separate the holy place from the most holy place, sometimes called the Holy of Holies. Put the atonement cover on the Ark of the Covenant in the most holy place. Place the table outside the curtain on the north side of the tabernacle. Put the lampstand opposite on the south side. For the entrance to the tent, make a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, finely twisted linen, and the work of an embroiderer. Make gold hooks for the curtain, and 5 posts of acacia wood overlaid with gold, and cast 5 bronze bases for them. So you can see, let me see if I can get a little bit better view. Let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit onto this and show. You can't really, it's a little bit better, but you can see the curtain, which is labeled number 3 in there, which is the veil between the Holy of Holies, and behind that curtain would be the Ark of the Covenant that had the law, the tablets of the law would end up with Aaron's rod and the jar of manna in that. So it's the law, it's God's provision of bread of heaven. Aaron's rod, the sign of God's leadership, of God's ordained leadership, that he chose Aaron. And so 3 is that veil that separates them. And then finally it talked about this outer curtain, which would be sort of number 8 there, the outer curtain that would be the entrance into that. So the tabernacle was always set up the same way, the opening to the east. It was always set up in the same direction. And so there was always this idea that the sun would rise in the east, God would come from the east. The enemies always came from the north. If you see, there's always this mindset in the Bible. And you know, when you see the Assyrians coming on the northern kingdom, they came from the north. You see the Babylonians coming to Jerusalem, to Judah, they were coming from the north. Enemies always seemed to appear to come from the north. The Lord would always come from the east, and you know, so, and you see the sort of the desert wind sometimes is shown coming from the east, and or from the south at times. So there's just different things about directions that are kind of interesting. But the tabernacle was always set up. That same way. And so that is sort of the curtains of the tabernacle. That's a pretty quick pass through 26. It's kind of a lot of reading, but again, it you know, all of this would be worth taking just a minute and considering why did God make these curtains this way? Why was it important to make them these dimensions? Why was it important to layer them? Why was it important to separate the Holy of Holies this way? What is this Ark of the Covenant about? Why is it called the mercy seat over the top? Why is there the menorah, the lamp, and the light? What does that mean? And the altar of incense. And consider these things, and then consider them in light of the fact that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. That is God in you, and to consider again the preparation, the thought process, the reverence with which everything was handled, very specifically, without exception. You know, God says, "Do it this way, build it this way, and don't deviate from it." And those details were important to God, even if we don't understand them. They are important to God. So consider that. It's good. It's good stuff to meditate on and to dig in even deeper on some of those verses and consider why God would do those things, and pray through and let Him reveal that by the Holy Spirit that's in you. Thanks for joining me today through chapter 26. Look for you as we enter into chapter 7 and get to look at the altar of burnt offering. If you enjoy these studies, please hit the subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like if you like them, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.